How are we there, guys? And welcome to another episode of the Smashing Crossbar podcast. I'm your host, Josh, as always. Not joined by Benno this week, unfortunately. We are doing it on a Tuesday instead of a Wednesday. Off to 1 Mile Beach for the weekend with the family. So figured I'd get in early before we go and talk a bit about the expansion. I know we were going to touch on that last week, but again, Benny wasn't there. So we figured we'd try this week, but again, he's unable to come. So we're going to get into it. We're going to tackle it for a good 15, 20 minutes. And I've got 2 special guests with me. One that needs no introduction. Robbie, how are you, mate?
I am very well, sir. And yourself?
Very good, mate. Pretty much becoming part of the furniture these days. So we, it's good to have you again, mate. How was the weekend of footy? Not too bad from an Adelaide point of view, I'd say.
It was a good win on Friday night, and then had Australia Cup and Federation Cup. Had an AR1 who basically had his first game and it went to penalty shootout. So you can't ask for much more than that.
Absolutely. Here we'll touch on a little bit of the the Australian Cup and all the NPL action and that around Australia, as well as touching on the international break that's just come in, Australia and Ecuador. A couple of games there. Be sure to let me know if you can't hear me. I know I've had a bit of audio issues over the last couple of weeks, but we're going to get into it. As I said, guys, through the week, we've got a special guest with us. He is definitely one of our regulars, and we love having him on the show because at the end of the day, I feel we get the best out of Laurie on these sort of shows because he just sits back. I believe it's a cup of tea in his hand this time. So
no, I'm outside with the dog.
Oh, yeah, so with the dog.
Susie's come out for a pee.
I love the fact that you've upgraded from the red stuffed dog, and you've gone out and bought a real one.
I've got a real one. Now, but the other one, Lenny's a red dog.
Yeah.
And a boy. This is a wee girl, and the wee princess got de-sexed yesterday, so she's not feeling too well. But I suppose if I got de-sexed, I'd be feeling worse than what she was.
Oh, mate, I forgot. How many times has she peed on poor old Lenny? Good old Lenny just sitting up there.
Nah, she's very well behaved. Very well behaved.
Very good. Anyway, guys, yes, it is Laurie McKinnon. For those in the chat who have sort of just come in and gone, oh my God, he's here. It's been a long time between drinks, mate. Since everything that's happened, you left the club at the Jets, obviously. You've been around a bit. You're now the CEO of Sydney Olympic.
Yep.
How's things been, mate, since leaving the Jets, obviously, and pretty much getting out of the A-League?
Yeah, no, I got out of the A-League, had a bit of a break, done some stuff on the Central Coast with regional development. I'm the chairman there. So I've done quite a bit there, and then I got asked to go on the board of Sydney Olympic to help them through the financial problems when Bill Pappas had ripped off Westpac. Apparently, it's not been proven yet, but they asked me to come on and give them a bit of credibility, which I did, and then the CEO left and they said, could I do a couple of days a week? And I said, yes, I would, but the 2 days was like 4 or 5 days, and now I'm on full time as a CEO and helping the owner of Olympic with some big developments on the Central Coast that he's got. So in between the club and helping him in his business at Titan Cranes is keeping me pretty busy. So all good. And I got involved last year, brung Roy O'Donovan to the club, and Roy went on to be the top scorer in the NPL with 23 goals. So maybe Newcastle could have kept him, or another A-League club could have done with getting Roy. He'd done very, very well, and he started this season off well too, and we won the league. We get beat in the semis, but we won the league, so it was a decent start again. Although this season we won the first 3 and then we've lost the last 4. So, but there's I think another 24 games to go, so it's a longer season this year. But not all going well.
Yeah, mate. We won't talk about the old Roy O'Donovan. I've been lucky enough to have a couple of conversations with him since he left, and yeah, it's a sad thing because I always said I don't understand why we got rid of him. He's always been a 1 in 2 player, and I couldn't understand it honestly why we let him go, considering we've been struggling over the years, and as you said, even another A-League club, I still think he had it in him, and it was good
he's
to see.
A model professional. The boys look up to him, and he looks as sharp now as he did in the A-League, you know, so he's
the thing.
looked after
He's a
himself very
character.
well.
He's a character. He's
Yeah.
one of those blokes you want in the dressing room, and I can't imagine what he's doing to the likes of the players at Sydney Olympic that, you know, have ambitions to get into the league. You know, just helping them out and talking them through what they need to do, where they need to improve as a, you know, a very good communicator. You know what I mean? And he is that. He's a very good communicator and gets the best out of players.
Yeah, no, and he's been good. And this year he's officially the assistant coach, but player assistant coach. So he's helping Labby as well.
Yep.
So that's that transition for Roy, because that was one of the reasons he came to the club, so he could transition into that coaching. Now with us putting in for the B League, the idea is that you've got Labby and Roy as the coaches for the B League, hopefully next year, if our submission's successful.
Yeah, well, and that's what we're going to talk about. You know, again, as we were saying off the air, you definitely tore through the Jets, which I was saying to Robbie and Ben a while back when we sort of started to see the likes of Labby and you know, Roy, and there's a few others in there as well that have gone there. You know how well you are respected, and you know, all these players come from the Jets and so forth. We can obviously see that they believe in you, and obviously your ambitions of what Sydney Olympic want to achieve.
Yeah, well, Jack Simmons was another one, although he's just
Simmons
picked up a bit of osteitis pubis, and he made his debut as a 16-year-old up in Brisbane. We beat Brisbane 4-1 that night, and I think he set up one of the goals as well, and he was great. And again, in my opinion, he should have still stayed at the club. He didn't get much early merit, kind of froze him out a wee bit. And he went down to Melbourne last year for the NPL in Melbourne, did very well.
Yep.
And he came to Olympic, and he's been a good signing for us so far, but he'll be missing a few weeks at the moment just with his osteitis pubis.
Yeah, no good there. Well, as I said, mate, we're not going to waste your time. I think the biggest thing of getting you on, mate, is pretty much to get the fans an understanding of what this whole B League is going to look like, sort of what you guys had to go through to sort of even submit an application. I know there was like financial situations. I think Robbie and I were talking about it the other week. It was like in the area of like 200,000 or something in the bank to even sort of have a thought of him putting your name in there. What was some of the criteria, mate, that you can sort of tell us?
So when we filled in the LOI, we had to submit $5,000 with the application. Yep. So that was all the clubs. There's 30 odd clubs did that.
Yep.
The $200,000 wasn't a part of it. There's nothing. The $200,000 has never appeared yet.
Okay.
So I don't know where that came from, because it definitely wasn't the case. We had to. They wanted company details, details about the history of the club, details of where your stadium is, where you're based in your city, what region you're going to be promoting the A-League, what do you call it, B League in. So there will know the next stage. So my understanding is the month of March they'll be going through all the submissions, and then they'll cut a few. Then I think FFA will come out with some of the criteria, because then we need to go to the next level. So it'll be a lot more in depth.
Yep. Because
they just wanted to know who the owners were, who would be meeting the bills. Obviously, we've got Damon Hanlon as our sole benefactor at the moment to the club, but obviously he would look for probably another two investors to come in with him for the B League.
Yeah. But
we stated that, that was in the LOI, so it was quite in depth, to be honest. And we've got a few staff in the club now, and we had Angelica, the girl in office, she was working on basically that full time for maybe like a week or two. So we put in a good submission.
Yep.
Some of the clubs would have struggled because they've just not got the staff to do that. But we were you have to give your financials, who owns the club. They just want all the background of all the clubs, so they can look at them and say, look, this club's got the capabilities to go to the next round. Yep. And that's what we're hoping. Then I think FFA will then come and here's the criteria, because they were talking about each club will have to pay X amount of money each year, which is going to cover airfares, accommodation, and the wages to run the B League. They're actually advertising for a general manager for the B League at the moment.
Okay.
So it's all going ahead. So that's on LinkedIn and that as well at the moment.
Oh, wow.
So they're advertising for a general manager.
Yeah.
So that number, that fee, we don't know what that fee is going to be. Is it going to be 200? Is it going to be 500?
Yeah.
You know, it's been banded about around about that 400-500 grand mark.
Yeah.
And that's not paying wages. And then there are discussions that came out in the press of full-time players.
Mm.
Well, in my opinion, what's a full-time player is how can a state league club with a budget of 500 to maybe 1.5 million all of a sudden spend 2 or 3 million on a B League club? I don't think so. I still think there's some of the stuff still not sure. The clubs still aren't sure.
Yeah.
So I guess coming from NPL, State League 1, State League 2 in South Australia, we've obviously had a couple apply, Adelaide City being one of the big ones. We've also had a joint venture from 4 of the big clubs around the State League and NPL. Now, as you said yourself, you're looking at clubs who at the moment are probably running on a $500 to $1.5 million basis per annum. What is Football Australia looking at in regards to sort of sponsorship deals? They're looking at trying to tee up. Is there going to be some form of support? Because while it's well and good for them to go, right, we want clubs to participate and jump into, you know, potentially what's going to be a make or break for a club, right?
Yeah. Nothing. We've not had nothing yet. So the clubs have not been told nothing but TV deals, nothing but sponsorship deals, nothing about a naming rights sponsor, nothing about a grant situation, the same as the A-League where you get your 2.2 million, whatever it is, back each year for the league. Nothing has been mentioned. So the next stages is when that will happen.
Yep.
And that's when a lot of teams will drop out because they'll look at it and go, we're not in this because we can't guarantee that funding. So that's still all to come. Everything regarding what the model's going to look like, nothing's been presented to the clubs yet.
Well, I suppose the big one for me is the simple one. As a CEO, mate, and as in the middle of obviously trying to get this all over the line, do you think that it's just too early? Do you think that them trying to push this for next season is still too early? Do you think they should have given you guys a bit more time?
Well, the clubs have been working on this for 6 years. When I was with the Jets, I was on the A-League. I represented the A-League with the clubs in the background. So I went to quite a few meetings. So these guys, the clubs, NPL clubs, have been meeting for 6 years about this.
Yeah.
So they've been working through it, giving FFA information, and I'm sure FFA will take a lot of that into consideration. But the finish up, FFA are going to do what they want because it's their competition. Exactly. So, and that's how I see it's going to happen. They're going to come down and say, "Here's the rules, here's the regulations. If you can come up with the money, you're in the league." That's how I see it going to happen. Maybe I'm wrong, but and then when it comes down to is the cost, some clubs at some of the meetings we've had, we can fly out and in the same day. Now you can't because the players' union will not let you happen. That will not happen. You'll have at least one night's accommodation every time you fly.
Yep.
It's going to be predominantly Eastern Seaboard clubs. And that saves the cost with flying to Perth and stuff like that.
Yep.
So the next April, May, and June is going to be a busy month for the clubs submitting the new information they have to submit. Apparently, the successful clubs will get that in April, and then it's full on for there. But how big that league is, if it's going to be 14, 16 teams, it was really refreshing that you could get over 30 clubs that are interested, because obviously there'll be some dropouts. And even Valentine, a club for Newcastle, they've just got a little ground. They couldn't even play at their ground, but they put in a submission, and I would say some of the smaller clubs will get a fright once they see what the costs are going to be.
Yeah, well, there's talk of I was amazed. And that's the biggest thing for me is just the fact that your Edgeworth and your Broadmeadow Magic, didn't even bother to
Yeah.
submit. And then you look at Valentine. I'm sure everybody in northern New South Wales has just gone, "What have they done?" But apparently they've got backing.
From the Chinese through Husey, because Husey
Yeah,
played over there for a while and was a coach over there.
exactly.
Apparently funding's coming in there, but look, Martin Lee was putting funding into the Jets and then pulled the pin. He just said, "I'm not paying the money anymore," and just walked away.
See what the Ledman Group are up to.
Yeah, maybe it's Martin Lee.
Yeah.
He owes me about $700,000, so maybe he can make a payment to me as well.
Yeah. We won't go into that one.
So I guess my concern is, right, and this is something I've been discussing with a few people already. We're looking at clubs that have got a proud history. Obviously, Sydney Olympic themselves have a very proud history, and even their own celebrity, Con Kebabs, which does the rounds on Caltex Australia football fans. We're talking about a club taking a massive leap of faith here, right? So
Yes.
I guess that's something that you've obviously discussed with your local football affiliations, which is if this falls over, and knock on wood, I'm hoping it doesn't, right? I really want us to have a second division where relegation promotion is eventually talked about, and it becomes a really big emphasis in, from the NSD to A-Leagues.
Yeah.
What reassurances have you been given from the local associations that if, say, for instance, this does to go belly up, that you're able to slot back into like an NPL, back to a second tier, third tier? Have they discussed that with you at all, or has it been buyer beware?
No, it's not been discussed, but obviously Football New South Wales work under Football Australia, so I would say there would have to be a mechanism put in place for this. I've heard the clubs in Brisbane, it's slightly different. I've heard the clubs in Brisbane, once they go, their juniors, where are they going to go? Because I know in Sydney, the talk is, you put your B League team in, and then I would have thought, what we thought was, if we get in the B League, that we would run an NPL team still in the NPL 1 competition, unless we get relegated with an under-23 team, where your better players, the better young ones play there, but you have a joint squad, so the young boys who are doing well in the NPL could go through and play in the Bay League. And whether that meant our NPL playing on Wednesdays, if you were playing at home, so you could get the best young players coming through into the system. And that's what Adelaide do so well. They do really well bringing through these young players, and more clubs in Sydney have to do that. And to me, that was an ideal way of bringing young players through. But I think it will just be, you put in a team in the B League, your academies and that will still play in their competitions. The talk they've had is it could be 2 to 3 years before the relegation from the B League, because of the upfront investment into the B League. And most clubs seem to, but that's not came for FFA, that just came for the clubs.
Yep.
And then when you talk about the A-League, promotion to the A-League, I know for a fact that in the A-League contracts, it's 2034 before they're going to consider any relegation.
Yeah.
That's in their contract.
Okay.
So the people who's going about saying, relegation fit, how's a team operating on 1.5 million?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they're going to win if they play through the winter, March through to September, and then they get promoted into the A-League, which starts in October. How are they going to find another $10 million? It's not going to happen. So there's a lot more to it than working out that. Most of the clubs at our meetings said they wanted summer football.
Yep.
I wasn't one of them, because I think it would be too hard to compete against A-League, even though crowds, apart from a couple of teams, and Adelaide being one of them, who are doing well, are doing reasonable with crowds.
Yep.
I don't think we can compete. I think we have to be winter, because if you got relegated out the B League in the summer, So you're going to finish in May. You're not going to be back in your NPL until 10 months later, around the next March. So I think it has to be winter, summer. And that's my opinion. You know, and I'm not an expert, but I've been about just for that flow of football.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
And you know yourself, winter football breeds a different element to summer football. When you're sluggish, it's 32 degrees, 34 degrees, and it's just an absolute stinker. There is nothing worse than, you know, chucking on your kit and having a run out there. You know, if we want to, trying to show up a second division, we want to make sure that it's the best football played possible, which is always winter.
Well, you look at the A-League games. The games that are played, Adelaide games on a Friday night, fantastic atmosphere, good games, high tempo. You look at Sunday 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock games on the TV, and you turn the game off because it's boring, because it's too hot. It's too hot. Yeah. Monday, Saturday night game, Wanderers Sydney at the weekend, great atmosphere, 28,000 people there, and it's a Saturday night, cool down, it's easy. So when I came here 30 odd years ago, when I played in the National League, you played in the winter, you know, and the games were high tempo. So I believe leave the A-League to what it's doing, and the B-League built. But the encouraging stuff was when the B-League announcement got made. You know, one of the posts went like viral. It was like over 1 million people liked it. You know, so there were a lot of people out there going. Because I never quite realised, because I've always followed the A-League or been involved as a coach or as an administrator, but not everybody has followed the A-League. They've stuck with their ethnic-backed teams, maybe not even gone to that, because they've just not had any interest or any belonging. So I think that surprised me, that the amount of support I've saw online for the B-League.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting 12 months. That's for sure, and hopefully, as you know, I think everyone here wants it to get on off the ground. That's a certainty. But at the same time, we want it to be a success. We don't want it to sort of happen like your Gold Coasts and stuff like that, where it's good for 12 months thereabouts, and then it just goes to shit, and then the club itself, who obviously was in that position, and are now struggling. You know, so fingers crossed it happens, and you know, there's no major hiccups and financial, you know.
Well, it's all real at the moment, and hope it may continue. But the next 3 or 4 months are going to be. This is when a lot of the push is going to come out, and a lot of the rules and regulations, and then the clubs have to decide: can we do that or we can't? And there's nothing wrong if you can't do it. It's putting your hand up and accepting what you're capable of doing, because you don't want to be in it for a year, then a club collapses, because the game doesn't need that bad publicity. You know, we don't need to have clubs dropping out. You want clubs to get stronger.
And that's my biggest concern, is it's a exercise of the I told you so, this is why we didn't have an NSD. I'd rather us be able to look at this from a sustainability, and that's the biggest thing. At the end of the day, it's going to be a business. And most people aren't going to chuck their money into a business that's going to be dropping $500 to $1.5 million a year in debt. So, you know,
and maybe FFA is going to come out and say, we've got a naming rights sponsor. Here's $500,000 each. You know, we don't know that yet, and that's a possibility. So we don't know that yet.
I'm seeing Cooper pop up everywhere at the moment. So I think them jumping on with Football Australia and the Socceroos, that seems to be a pretty beneficial partnership. So who knows? Maybe it could be the Cooper League.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah,
that's exactly it. Before we let you go, mate, get your thoughts on the 2 teams that have been announced into the A-League, mate. The Knights, or Auckland City. Surely the Knights. Surely it's going to be what was it? It was the Kings, wasn't it?
It was the Kings before,
Kings,
yeah.
That's
Auckland
right.
Kings.
Auckland Kings, sorry, I got confused there. Auckland Kings and then Canberra, which is a no-brainer for me. It should have happened a while ago. But what are your thoughts there, mate? Two more clubs coming into the A-League. Good thing?
Yeah, so I think we need more teams, yep. But along the same lines, they need to be sustainable.
Yeah.
But I believe the APL will be actually doing what FFA did with the Wanderers. They'll be setting up the clubs and then selling the club on as a going concern, rather than selling the licence to people who's never been involved in football. They'll actually be setting the clubs up, which I agree with. Look what happened. The Wanderers clicked at the beginning. They got the owners to come in and take over the club, and it was a success for the first lot of years. You know, it was massive. So I believe that's what the business plan is going to be. They've made the decision for Auckland and Canberra, so they'll go in and they'll put the men on the ground or women on the ground to get that up and going. And then in another year's time, there'll be 2 more teams coming in, and they're saying, I don't know, there's some people saying, they've only said that because the B League, they're worried about the B League. In my opinion, they're not worried about the B League. They're worried about the A League to make sure it's successful, because they've invested a lot of money in this, and
Exactly.
you know, crowds are down with a lot of clubs, and all the bad publicity we've had this year. Whereas we should be celebrating football. We've got the Women's World Cup, and you've got the success of the Socceroos at the World Cup. You know, a lot of good stuff, but then we shot ourselves in the foot, as we seem to do, and get all the negative press for a wee while.
Yeah, mate, exactly right. I've got plenty of people in the chat here at the moment, mate. As you'd imagine, being somewhat of a Jets podcast, everyone's just saying, thanks again, Laurie, for everything. The fans didn't overly get to say too much when you sort of departed, but there's plenty in here at the moment. Sending love your way, mate.
Well, it wasn't really my choice that they punted me out the door, but as we stayed off air, which is top secret, there could be more coming out soon. So let's wait and see.
That's it. No, but honestly, friggin', everyone in the chat, I'm sure he feels your love. He's not that far away. I'm sure you come down here every now and then. A few cafes you don't mind going to.
Actually, I had the best cookie this morning I've ever had in my life, and it was in Newcastle. Unbelievable. So it was just fresh, and I was meant to be fasting, but I smashed it. It was beautiful. So thank you very much for me breaking my diet today.
Actually, touching on Mary's comment, with Central Coast Mariners returning next season for the A-League Women. What are we going to call the Derby? Is it going to still be the F3 Derby for that, or is it, you reckon it might be a bit something different?
Well, they brought that, what was that new trophy? That piece of tar macadam. It was. I saw Shane a couple of weeks ago. It's a joke. Oh, you really think so? Yeah. Well, I said, you've got a bit of tar macadam drilled out the road, and that's a trophy. I said, nah, it doesn't do it. It doesn't do it for me. So I'm not sure. I don't know what they'll be calling it with the girls. I'm not sure. But I see Gary Van Egmond. Gary Van Egmond's just been announced the head of women's football at the Jets. Well, that announced tonight.
Yeah, I was going to say, I seen it as well, and honestly, I sort of, I don't know, I was very confused. It just more so in the fact that he took it on. I mean, I made sure that I went down and watched his first game, coaching the girls, and man, he looked, I don't know, I could just, him sitting in the dugout, he just looked so stressed. Like he's just as if to think, like, holy shit, it is this bad. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not a. I'm not trying to take a dig at the girls.
Stressed looking. He's Gary's stressed looking when he's happy. That's him happy. He needs to cheer up. He cheers up to miserable.
Look, hopefully, look, it can't get any worse. And I've spoken to a few of the girls in the squad this season, and it's dire straits, and it has been for years, unfortunately. And there just needs to be a lot of changes. A lot of personnel need to leave. And that's players, and that's players from the top, I think. I mean, I love Cass, but she just looked so terrible. And again, I don't like to hate on anybody, but I went and watched them play a couple of weeks ago, and I think it was Western United. Yeah, Western United, and they got.
Is that when they should? Is that when somebody said they should have left the dogs on the field?
Mate, they would have chased more ball than the girls did that day. Let me tell you.
I heard that. I heard that comment.
she just, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, as I said, Cass is a great girl, but far out. She just, she was just behind the whole game.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, she must have been so pissed off and so annoyed at herself and the team and everything else. But yeah, I don't know. Things need to change there, and hopefully Gary will be able to do that next year with a full season under his belt.
Yeah, well, he's got enough time. He's got enough time to get ready and start selecting and go and watching games and getting new players.
Exactly right, mate. Anyway, mate, we are gonna let you chuff off and get your beauty sleep. I'm sure you got to be up early.
Well, I've just come in my walk. So Susie's now went through to Christine. I heard her shouting, so she probably jumped up on the couch, and Christine's trying to wrap her up in cotton wool, because what happened yesterday. But she's doing okay. My wee baby girl's doing all right.
Have you messaged Ange at all, mate, to see if he'd be interested going over to Rangers?
No. When I was over in Scotland in September, Ange organised for us to go to training at Celtic.
Oh yeah.
Celtic training venue. He was back here at the time for that cup.
Oh
so
yeah.
He organised for me and my mate, and my mate says, right, you're getting a picture taken. I said, no, we're not getting a picture taken. I'll take my pictures of you. I took him to Celtic Park, and there were pictures of Jock Stein out front and blah, blah. He said, we're getting a picture taken. I said, no, Joe, I can't. I'll take them of you. No, the answer is no. I cannot do that. So we went to training. The assistant coach, he looked after us tremendously. We couldn't have been any more welcome. Joe loved it. Like, Joe was in his glow. He's a big Ange fan, and it was great. We got well looked after, and he's doing a fantastic job. And I said that when he got the job, I was in the Scottish papers, all the papers on the radio, and I told, even though being a Rangers fan, I said, look, he'll do a good job. He'll not get carried away with all the religious bigotry and stuff like that. He doesn't care. He'll not buy into it, and he's done a fantastic job.
Yeah, he has. He has definitely done a fantastic
job. I just wish they'd get rid of him and send him down to England to coach one of their teams and put some other monkey in charge of them, so Rangers can get back at the top.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be too long. I'm sure plenty of clubs.
I agree.
I think a lot of clubs have got their eye on him, and
they're all coming out of the closet now saying how good he is. But these were the ones who all bagged shit out of him when he got the job.
Get on the Muscat, mate, and freaking he can do the swap to Rangers.
Muscat's done a great job. He's another one that's done a great job. So and he's not even tackled anybody. So there you go. He's done it without doing that.
Get his feet together. Oh mate, friggin' look! It's been one of those seasons. I think Scotland, as a proud Scotsman, mate, you've got to sort of sit back, and it's great to see the Aussies getting over there. There's so many Aussies over in Scotland at the moment now. It's great.
I keep in touch with Billy Getty. Obviously, he's going through a rough time in the United, but there are a lot of Aussies over there, and a lot of them's doing it well. Like the big ex-Manlers boy, who was at Hearts, he signed a 5-year deal.
Yeah.
Once was there, but the only reason he signed a 5-year deal because they're going to sell him. They know they're going to sell him, so they've given him a big pay rise and slapped a 5-year contract on him because they know they'll sell him for £1, £2, £3 million.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cammy Devlin, he's doing well. He's running about kicking people and smiling at them when he kicks them. That's what he does well. He's a silent assassin, the wee man. He just loves it.
But he quals over there now, doing good things as well from the coast, mate.
Yeah. So they're all doing very well.
Too easy, mate. It's been a crazy time, mate. Friggin' obviously the World Cup. You survived that over in Qatar as well.
Oh no, had a ball. Me and Christine loved it.
I bet you did. The green and gold army and everyone that made it over there with you. So, honestly,
just let you know. Just let you know. I don't wear a gold and green shirt either. I only wear the waist, but I wear the blue one. So just to clear that, I just have to get that clear.
No, we wouldn't have it any other way, mate. We figured as much. Mate.
All right, boys. Well, thanks for having us on, and it's been good talking to you. And all the best.
Yeah, mate.
All the best at the weekend.
Good luck for the remainder of the NPL season, and obviously the selection into the B League.
Well, I'll speak to you in a few months, and I'll give you an update.
That'd be great, mate. Thanks, buddy. Enjoy your night.
Okay, boys. Yeah, good night. Thanks.
Wow.
There you go. Cheers to
Some
Laurie.
big news from that one.
Yeah, it was some interesting news because at the end of the day, like I only got the whole conversation of the 200,000. Like that was like a pretty. It wasn't just off a mate. Like it was a pretty good source. I got
No.
that. So to sort of
I,
see
I had
that
this.
it's going to
I had
happen.
the source of and I had the source of about 500k sitting in regards to the initial licensing.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. I figured that it had to be big, but I sort of thought that they had to show records of the 200,000 sort of sitting there in the bank just to sort of even get the look in. But even obviously that hasn't been the case yet. They haven't even got that far yet. So,
But my biggest concern with all of this is the amount of throwing caution into the wind by the clubs with no guarantees, no safety blanket. That's gonna turn a lot of them away.
exactly.
Now, there's going to be the big clubs, your Adelaide Cities, you see Sydney Olympic, probably your Sydney 58, that have got the backing, they've got the money behind them, and they're going to be able to throw that caution. But we've got 4 of our clubs here in Adelaide who are massive clubs over here. All right, we're not talking small clubs, but even they've gone, look, if we rebrand this as Football South Australia, we've got a better chance. And to be honest with you, as I said, it's probably the best chance they have in regards to getting a second team along the line from South Australia. But the one thing Laurie said there that's got me the most concerned, and he's hit the nail on the head, it's an Eastern States National Second Division. The way he's looking at it, there's going to be no one in Perth, no one in Northern Territory. You got a couple probably in South Australia, but it just means that South Australian clubs are going to be flying in and out of the Eastern States every week.
And again, and as I said, for everyone sort of in the chat and so forth, just because we like to do it, not so much that this is fact, but that's Laurie's opinion. Yeah, that's not to say that he doesn't want to see a Perth side in there or an Adelaide side or whatever. He just believes that he can only see it being feasible if it sort of sticks to the East Coast, and that way the flights times and the travel and all that sort of is lowered, because they can sort of get in and out, at 50 bucks a head or whatever it is to pack a plane or whatever it is at $50 a head sort of thing, compared to going to Perth or something like that where you're up to nearly $150, $200 a head each way. So, it makes sense. It does make sense, and it's definitely a conversation that I've had with Ben and a few of the other guys, that I sort of feel that it needs to start out that way as an East Coast sort of thing, just because the amount of teams between Melbourne, Queensland, Sydney, just there, you can round 16 teams out of that. And even with the financial backing, I think the biggest thing for me out of that as well is you can literally go to that 32 team structure of that have applied, and you can almost cut out 10 of those sides that have made their bid.
If not more.
Yeah.
If not more.
Yeah, that will definitely just drop off and just go, not happening.
You think of a bit this way. It was a 5K expression of interest fee, yeah?
Yep.
Times that by 32.
Exactly.
That's a small pocket change.
Absolutely.
And especially when you're dealing with community clubs at the moment who, State League 2 to NPL, whatever you call it around the league, that's $5,000 away from the juniors. That's $5,000 from replacing their nets. That's $5,000 from making sure their grasses are maintained.
Yep.
So it's not a. I feel for the junior. I feel for the clubs, because at the end of the day, for me, they're the lifeblood of our local community. So we've got to make sure that they're not going to get done over for this. So my fingers are crossed they go well. We better move on to the next bit.
Look, as I said, we're probably going to cut out a little bit of. I wasn't expecting it to sort of go that long. We had a bit of a late start, unfortunately. Friggin' Laurie's tech savvy is not that crash on, which we just sort of just winged it because he couldn't get onto the server, and then we had to call it absolute shit show. Anyway,
and that's coming from Josh as well. So if he's saying something's not tech savvy, we're up shit creek.
Yeah, exactly right. Absolutely, it's just a shit show. But anyway, friggin', we're going to quickly, obviously, dissect through the weekend of the A-League. I think that's probably most important to sort of wrap off before we get cut off here, and sort of we might miss out on a bit of the NPL and the Australian Cup. We might leave that till next week, especially considering for a lot of teams it's a short turnaround. So I know a lot of the clubs in Sydney/Newcastle played on the weekend and then have to back up on Wednesday to play their round 3 fixtures. So not much time between sort of, getting ready for the next game. So we might sort of leave that till the next one. But the A-League itself was an interesting week. It was an interesting week. You can't go past 5-1 in Adelaide.
Yeah.
It was funny because I spoke to a mate and I said, this is going to sound silly. It's going to sound stupid, I'm sure. And I'm sure a lot of people are sitting there going, really? But Wellington should never have been beaten by that margin. They didn't look that bad. They got beat at the wrong areas. And it was probably much like the Jets. You know what I mean? We looked probably worse than that. But, you know what I mean? Adelaide freaking scored their chances. And at the end of the day, we'll win you an A-League game. So, what were your thoughts, mate? You were there.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. First half, we looked really woeful. We had the lucky goal in I think it was the 16th minute, coming off the chest back to Ollie, and Ollie just didn't know anything about it. But first half, they had the chances, and that's what had me worried was, here we go, we're about to drop points again, we're about to do this, we're about to, just choke. And then second half, I don't know, look, Carl Beer can be a very, very angry man. Let's put it that way. But he just seemed to put the fire up on something chronic. In that second half, they were just coming out with absolute magic. The other thing I'm absolutely loving is we've got more youth coming through. So you look at the striker, he replaced Ibuzuki while Ibuzuki's still not 100% from his head gash the other week.
Yep.
He was looking like a pirate on Friday night. We thought it was hilarious. But, it's not just... We're not a team that relies just on our striker to score all the goals. You look at the goal scorers over Friday night's game. We had Lockie Barr, we had Craig Goodwin. Irakunda almost scored an absolute worldie again.
Yeah.
You had... Who else was it? I'm going to absolutely butcher his name, so I won't even go near. Our new striker used to play for FK Beograd.
Jovanovic.
Jovanovic, yeah. So it's a situation at the moment where our goals are coming from everywhere, left, right, and centre. Dorigo's been scoring for fun this season. I think that's a good thing. Is, as I said to you a couple of weeks ago, I sat there and I watched City press Freeman zone, press Nestor Irakunda when he was running down the wing. This week, it was man on man because Wellington had no idea where our next attack was coming from.
Yeah.
So, the fact that we're now 4 points away from Melbourne City,
yep.
If we will overtake them, that's got to be the story of the season.
Yeah. We'll touch on that very shortly. We'll quickly get through some of the other ones through the round. So Brisbane Roar over Western United, I think, was a bit of an upset. More so just because Western United were on a roll. They were playing some good football and unfortunately couldn't get it done in Brisbane. The Jets and Perth, 2-2 draw. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to sort of get anything out of it at the moment. We played some decent football. There was moments and glimpses of some good stuff, and unfortunately, it's just not. We're just not getting the results, and it's what we need. If we're going to have any hope of scraping into the final series, we need to start winning games, and if we don't do it soon, it's going to be all over.
Can I just say though?
Yeah.
Perth Glory have done that twice in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The last minute or last second minute.
Yeah.
And a full credit to them bringing the Williamses back in. They have been absolutely smashing this season.
Yep.
And unfortunately, because they're over in Perth, we don't hear much about it. But honestly, those two have been probably the two best signings for the season.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They'd have to be up there for sure. And, as I said, they're doing some good things. And not going to lie, freaking Reece Williams has done all right for me on Sportsbet. So thanks, buddy. Melbourne victory, what can you say? what can you say? It was coming. It was only a matter of time they'd get a victory. Popper finally must have snapped the steel ruler over something, and freaking the players' heads must have fucking rolled back, or freaking they've woken up from their slumber or something, because they looked really good. They looked really good. I was like, who is this team? I almost had to look for Popper and see if he was actually there, and see if they've just brought someone else in.
Can I just say though?
Yeah.
Again, another game with a stupid red card.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. It feels like every week I'm being vindicated, because every time these cards are coming out now, I'm hoping people are seeing my point. I'm hoping people are understanding what I was trying to say a couple of weeks ago. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You do stupid tackles, you're going to get booked for it. There's no other way of saying it. So, yeah, I mean, the other thing we've got to be asking ourselves is what's happened with Central Coast Mariners? They, at the start of this year, looked like a real strong contender for the top four.
Yep.
Right, and I think the last 3 or 4 rounds, they have just tripled in falling backwards. So, yeah, I'm not sure. Apart from Cummings, if they didn't have Cummings right now, that'd be up shit creek.
Oh, they'd be struggle street. It's amazing that they're still sitting in fourth, to be fair. The other one there was MacArthur and Melbourne City. Great game. To watch. It was end to end. There was fucking mistakes. There was issues. There was dramas. There was
2 VARs.
Stupid decisions. Stupid refereeing, in my opinion. In bits and pieces. Just like, and for me to say that, it's rare, but
it is.
He called it. All I wanted from that game, and you could, for me, again, as not a referee, you could see in the first 15 minutes that it was going to be an argy-bargy, and he just had to let shit go. But he was on the whistle, for me, too much. I think he just needed to let a bit more of it flow. And I think we probably would have seen a bit more flair and a bit more excitement out of it. But hey, I'm not the referee, mate. That's just what I thought. And I was just like, really? Just let that shit go.
You know what, though? That was VAR on a pedestal as to why we need it. Those 2 penalties they originally called, from the angle, you could definitely have a look at it and go, you know what? I can actually understand why he gave that. And it wasn't until you actually saw the replay that you could tell that, hang on a second, there was no contact there. The actual defender's done a really, really good job in dropping their leg right at the right time.
Yeah. And
it's not simulation. It was just, the player's going, I'm about to get hit here. I'm going to take a tumble while I'm going down.
Yep.
So, in all fairness, as I said, that's what VAR is there for. It is to avoid those sorts of mistakes where it's an easy error because it's that close. It was millimeters away. So, full props to him. Can we talk about the best game of the round, please?
Look, before we get into the changing of the guard and all the shit and all the crap and all the hype and all the talk that what is a 4-0 drubbing of Sydney FC for Western Sydney Wanderers, and the first time in a very long time since they've actually beaten them twice in the same season. I just want to take a shout out to Sydney FC and shit, I just lost his freaking name. Oh shit, their captain. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I just lost it. I had it. Big props to him. Props to him for coming out where he didn't have to. He could have just sat there and just gone, fuck it, whatever.
Oh, the captain?
Yeah, I've gone totally blank, and it's driving me up the wall, and I'm literally going to have to Google it because it's pissing me off. It is Wilkinson. Far out. Look what that was. Props to him. Props to him for coming out and apologising from a player's point of view. For me, as I said, he didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, they lost a game, right? And it's a heavy defeat. It's against your rivals, and I'm sure he's as pissed and as upset as every fan in that stadium. But props to him for coming out and actually apologising for the performance and everything else. At the end of the day, it just shows it's what every club wants. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
If Adelaide got pumped by Melbourne Victory, 5-0 in the grand final.
We don't talk about.
5-0 in the grand final from Archie Thompson.
Never happened.
Race
for memory.
As a club, you know, you would hope grand final's a bit different, but yeah, it's definitely more of an in season during the season sort of thing, not a grand final. But you would hope that the club would come out and go, look, apologies to all our fans for the performance we put on the weekend. It wasn't good enough, and we'll be first to own it and everything. It's great. It's great to see, and it just means that they care. You know what I mean? Is it going to change anything? No. Is it going to fix anything? No. But it's still, the fans look back at it and go, well, you know what? They didn't have to. But, you know, we take it, we cop it on the chin and go, you know what? Fucking good on them for sort of coming out. So, but anyway.
In all fairness, though, you look at Corica after that, and he was just salty. But full credit to Marco Rudan. All right?
Yeah.
That guy gets it. He gets what it's all about. He understands when it comes to the Western Sydney culture. He understands that it's the migrants versus the Sydney snobs, and he sticks it up to them every time. That's what he feeds that whole week. This is a class warfare. This isn't just a standard. This is, you are fighting for the western suburbs of Sydney. Yeah. And that's something I give absolute props to. It's the same with us. Whenever we head over the Melbourne Victory, all right, our boys are told straight away, if you don't know the culture, you don't understand the history between the two clubs, you read up on that shit. Because if you go in there thinking that you're going to go in for an easy game, you're going to have your pants pulled down, you're going to get spanked.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're going up against your biggest rivals without the precedents, then you're asking for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, it didn't look good. And, you know, as a as a non-Sydney fan, it's good to see. It's always great to see, you know, the big clubs sort of you know, come to that sort of time where it's the run's dead, the run's gone, and now they're sort of starting to realise that, you know, and it's Corica's time to leave. Corica needs to go.
He needs to go 2 seasons ago, but I still I don't understand. He must have something on that club.
No,
in order to...
No, see, for me, I think I spoke to Ben about this literally this morning, because I was saying we're going to talk about it. But for me, it is there was no one to replace him. Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing about Sydney is they do things very smartly. They don't just go in and pick up a coach, right? They, you know, and I guarantee you that's half the reason why he remained there in that obviously through that video and movie sort of documentary thing or whatever it was, where they were looking at letting him go, but then they didn't, because they weren't going to shaft him for somebody that they felt was going to do the same job or possibly worse.
Well, okay. Thinking about the environment at the moment, Corica gets dropped next week. Who would you replace him with?
If Corica left next week, there is only one person I would replace him with. There's only one, and I know it probably won't happen because Melbourne Victory are going to beat them to the punch. Unless because they won't sack Corica, right? They'll let Corica see out the season because they're not that club, right? But if they were to sack him tomorrow, the only coach that would go into that system would be Ufuk Talay. It is the only coach they would put in there. But he's going. So
you're talking. You're talking a second Sydney club pinching a Phoenix coach while he's doing some decent justice for him. That's fantastic.
But again, the assistant coach of Sydney FC under Corica when they won their titles
was Ufuk. Yeah. So, you know who mine would be, just for the absolute shits and giggles to see it happen again. Yeah. Marco Rudan.
Marco, yeah, of course you would.
Could you imagine? Western Sydney Wanderers.
Yeah.
First derby.
Rudan is going to be one of those coaches, I think, who is going to be a yo-yo. He's going to be...
He's going to be the A-League's version of
Liam Reddy.
Conte.
He's going to be a Liam Reddy. Yeah, Conte as well. Yeah, Liam Reddy. He just travels to every club. You know, I mean, I don't know. I think Ufuk for me would be a great fit at Sydney. He knows the structure. He gets on well with the. I'm guessing he still gets on well with the backroom staff and that of Sydney and the owners and all that sort of shit. So I feel he would be a good fit. And he's worked under Corica, so he sort of knows what not, sort of the mistakes and probably what not to try. You know what I mean? Like, okay, obviously he's tried that, so I'm not going to go down that route. So I've got to sort of, and he's had time in New Zealand to figure it out for himself. he hasn't done a bad job in New Zealand. I don't think he's just had the resources and the money and everything else. And to be perfectly honest, if you're a coach and you're born and bred in Sydney and in Australia, you want to be back home. You know what I mean? You don't you don't want to be coaching in the Australian A League and freaking being over in New Zealand. So
No.
I'm sure he would be doing everything possible to try and get back on this side of the friggin' pond. And I know Melbourne Victory are looking at him very heavily. And I think Lukey put that in the chat before. So it's just going to come down to who gets to him quickest, I think.
Yep.
For me.
Um,
Timmy Woods, welcome, mate, all the way from the States. How are you? Every time you pop in here, mate, we're almost wrapping up the show. So we appreciate you jumping in, mate. Hope everything's going well over in the States as a new dad. So, g'day, mate.
Can we touch on the week ahead?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, just a quick one to recap. Melbourne City still on top. Adelaide close behind them. Western Sydney into third. Central Coast still hold on to fourth spot over Wellington on goals. What do you got? Sydney FC in sixth. Newcastle Jets seventh. Western United on the same points in eighth. Macarthur on the comeback trail in ninth. Perth Glory struggle street at the moment in 10th. Brisbane Roar are in 11th, which freaking amazes me because I just don't understand how they're sitting that far down. Obviously, the results are the reason for that, but they've played some really good football, and I think that's.
I was watching highlights from a couple of weeks ago. Their passing game is beyond any other level. It's the finishing that's the issue.
Yeah, and I think that's been the problem for them for the last couple of years. It's just that they're not doing overly anything wrong. You know what I mean? I don't think the coach is the problem there.
They've had bad luck. You look
yeah,
at Charlie Austin when he first came in. He was a huge breath of fresh air into him, and then next thing you know, they got cold feet. They wanted to move back over to England.
Exactly right.
So, it's just the story. Unfortunately, when you get those imports rather than looking internally, that's just the risk you take.
Exactly right. And then you look at Melbourne Victory sitting on the bottom of the ladder.
Where they belong.
Where they belong. But the thing is, they're on 21 points. They've still got a game in hand, which would put them on 24 points. And then,
they're back up to 10th.
Let's say they win 2 games. They're in the top 6.
Well, this is the scary part.
You know what I mean?
Have we had a season this close in quite a while?
Exactly right.
I mean, even the top 6 isn't settled, and we're only 5 rounds away.
I think for me, the top 3 is sealed. I don't think Western Sydney are going to drop too many points.
Well, they play better next Friday night.
But you know what I mean. I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to lose too many points, enough to friggin' really make them a threat of missing out on the top 6 like the others on 34 points. But from Central Coast down, it could go either way. Wellington Phoenix with a couple of good results. I'd say they're sitting in 5th at the moment. But a couple of good
I feel like this is going to be a community event where, like, the last 2 rounds, you and I are just going to be sitting next to a whiteboard with all the strings just connecting the dots.
And that's exactly.
And hey, I'm all for that. If you're up for that sort of stream, let us know. We'll be more than willing.
We'll get the friggin' get the whiteboard out behind me and the green screen and substitute.
Not saying it's aliens, but aliens.
Substitute the green screen for a whiteboard. There you go. You've heard it here first. Anyway, guys, we're going to wrap it up with the obviously international break. We'll dive into. There's plenty of NPL. We're not going to have the time for it this week, but if you haven't, jump onto the NPL website, go through, have a good look. There were some great results in Newcastle this week. There was some frigging bangers in frigging Brisbane. Absolute frigging crazy football up there. So go check that stuff out. And I know there was a couple of good results down in the Australian Cup for Tassie as well, which we won't dive into, but they had their
South Australia as well. We had a huge round.
Yeah, massive round. Yeah, be sure to go check it out, guys. Just jump onto the NPL website and you can go through literally all the friggin' all the competitions, their structures, and look at the fixtures and stuff like that. It's crazy what's going on. Friggin' the tables and everything are going up and down and shit. It's nuts. But anyway, we are going to finish on the international break as we said. There's going to be plenty of football from Europe. in that whole friggin' conference fucking shit that they do. Absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, I haven't got time to friggin' dissect of how frustrating and shit that I think that
That's
is.
another pod.
Anyway, we won't go into that one. But the Aussies are in camp. Plenty of Aussies have touched down in Australia in the last couple of days. Plenty that didn't have to go too far. As there's a few, obviously, that have been picked from our own backyard. For me, it's a good squad. For me, I don't think, bar injuries, obviously, which no one can control, it's a pretty good squad.
So I'm gonna. For the last few years, I've been really frustrated when it's come to the Socceroos squad being so Eastern State centric.
Yep.
But I'm going to run through a list of names for you now, and I want you to tell me exactly what all of these have in common. Mobile, Irukunda,
Yep.
Riley McGree,
Yeah.
Craig Goodwin,
Yeah.
Joe Gauchi,
Yeah.
Thomas Deng,
Yeah.
Ryan Strang,
Yeah.
and Brendan Borrello.
Brendan Borrello. Well, now, the first thing that comes to mind is some players that friggin' absolutely made great careers after they left the Jets. And
You can try, yeah.
i.e. Craig Goodwin, fantastic after he left. Friggin' McGree, fantastic after he left. Friggin' and so forth. But for me, as an Adelaide friggin' gentleman yourself, you're only looking in your own backyard, surely. So I'm going to say that they've all played in Adelaide at some point in their career.
They're all from South Australia. A third of Arnold's 26-man squad is from South Australia.
There you go, and
So-
it's good to see. But it's for me, there it touches on exactly what Laurie said, and what I've said for a long time is the Adelaide system works, and it works very well. Taking the A-League side out of it, you take that aside, and you just look at the youth system, and it's just like its own little friggin'
Factory.
yeah, it is. It's just literally like its own little factory and shit like that. And then obviously, if I don't know, the chain falls off the wheel or whatever it is, it's just a simple friggin' just pick that back up, put that back in there, and away it goes again. There's no issues. You know what I mean? They just sort of think, old mate, we've sold old mate's gone to Perth or whatever it is. Fuck it, we've done our job. Bring the next bloke in. You know what I mean? They don't sort of sit on it. They don't dwell on any of that shit. Their job is purely get these blokes trained up, get these blokes to where they should be, and if we can throw them into the Adelaide United, happy days. If not, we want the best money we can for them, and friggin' hopefully they go on and have great careers. And it fucking works. I don't know. It just works. Crazy.
It's got me scratching my head. Why the Toure brothers still aren't getting called up?
Yeah.
Did you watch Al Hassan on Sunday night?
Yeah.
Right, that run he did to basically assist the goal for MacArthur.
Yeah.
That was something else.
Yeah.
That was some absolute composure. And the thing is, he's not just doing it once or twice; he's doing it every week. So,
Yeah.
I know obviously we've probably got enough wingers at the moment, but as I said, I'm surprised as to how Toure hasn't been called up for this squad or the next one. But apart from that, Mary and Luke.
Yep.
Both said Nata and Aquilina under 23s Aussies camp. Mary's asked, well, please explain why Nata isn't even named or hardly getting any game time.
Is that in the Jets? Is that for the Jets you're talking about? Because I'm guessing so. Because I'm guessing it's like the Archie Goodwin scenario of he got picked for the under 20s or whatever it is, and then freaking hasn't been playing when he's Russia joining AFC.
Tim, they've got a
Yes.
better chance of winning the
Yes.
Ukraine war than joining the AFC.
I was gonna say yeah. They get a look in after they friggin' finally stop the war, and they come to their senses and friggin'
Sorry, their special campaign.
yeah, fucking hell, yeah. So yeah, sorry, that's not a war. Fucking hell. Mary, if that's what you're talking about, the whole factor that friggin' Nata made the under 23s and he hasn't been getting the game time. He's injured. He's coming back from injury. And I guarantee you they've picked him for the under 23s and so forth as a hope. Hopefully he's sort of because he's not 100% injured. You know what I mean? Like he's coming back from injury. So Pappas is very much a slow and steady type of guy. he does things in slow mo, exactly like that. Because Archie Goodwin gets 15 minutes here, then he gets 20 minutes here, then he gets 15 minutes here, then he doesn't play for 3 weeks, and then he gets 20 minutes here, and then it's just he does things. He sort of, and it's a good thing for that. I don't mind what he does with them, because he doesn't want them to he doesn't want to throw them in, and then something to happen, i.e. a major injury. You know what I mean? You don't want to be you don't want an 18, 19-year-old kid coming in there and friggin' absolutely killing it, and then he gets a major injury, and then then his season's gone, and then the only thing he's thinking about at 18 is, fuck, is my career over? How bad is it going to be? How long is this injury going to be? How long do I have to sit here? Why can't I fly with the guys? I know I'm not playing, but all this shit will then go through your head. Again, it's shit that went through my head. No, I'm not even a professional footballer. If you can't play this week, son, because we've got to, we're going away or whatever. Why can't we do it at the end of the season? Why does it have to be now? I'm fucking playing. I'm letting my team down. I'm letting this down. So what he does is a good thing. You know what I mean? I don't mind that. That has had a great season, and I think he's definitely a fullback for the future, and he'll do great things once he leaves the Jets. Sorry.
So when he comes to Adelaide United, you mean?
Wherever.
Can I just touch on three things with the Socceroos I'm absolutely loving to hear at the moment?
Yeah.
First of all, obviously, Ryan Strain's come in as an injury replacement for Aaron Moy. I wish Aaron Moy all the best. One of my favourite players still. Really hope he's recovers soon. The fact that they've brought Martin Boyle back over to join up with the Socceroos, I have absolute. I'm so happy that they're keeping him involved, especially after the World Cup. He's off the crutches from what I've been able to see as well, which is just glorious. So to have him still around the boys, still being a part of the club, the culture and stuff, I really love the fact that they've got him down as the chief vibes officer still. I think that's just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And lastly, the fact that they've obviously brought in they've got a really good range of youth and also developed players. So I think there's going to be some major interest showing as to how we go up against. Oh, that's the other one, Harry Suter.
Yep.
I don't know if you've seen over Twitter the last 24 hours, but there is a photo of him right next to the cum dog.
Oh, yeah.
And it's one of the funniest shit you ever see. And then Harry Suter's actually posted today him next to Marco Tilio. And basically showing how tall Tilio's is next to him. But it just seems to be a really good culture. And you know what? I hate to say this. After reading the story between Mabil and the coach, I don't know if you saw that drop a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
I'm finding it really hard these days to hate Graham Arnold as much as I did. It's
an interesting one, isn't it? Friggin',
it hurts. I've had a lot of issues with him and his style of football. However, as a coach, I can't fault the man. His squad management is perfect.
He for me, and again, I've always said this, and again, I'm not a fan of, as you said, the same thing. I'm the same. I'm not a fan of the way he plays, his structure and stuff like that. I just think it's fucking scary football. And we got away with it at the World Cup. Fantastic. But unfortunately, for me, that style of football needs to be played against European opposition all the time, right? If we were in the European conference, or we had to get through the European sort of structure or whatever it is, it'd be great, because we can play that style of football against European opposition, no problem. But it's too risky against the Asians, because they're soft as fuck. They go down like a sack of shit on everything. They friggin' they don't take the shit. They don't, as well. They're not stupid. They're quick. They're agile. It's 40 degrees out there. They don't give a shit. You know what I mean? So it just doesn't work. His structure doesn't work. But yeah, as you said, the way he brings players together, the way he brings a team that may have a lot of issues in the back room before they start. By the time it ends, I'm sure by the time this camp finishes, they'll be a completely different group of blokes going into club level, and I'm sure a lot of the players going back to their clubs will be sort of probably pretty shocked, to be fair, as if, holy shit, who's this bloke that's coming back? It's like a rejuvenated player. So not only does he get the best out of them while they're away on international duty, but he prepares them to go back to club level. And I think that's friggin' probably one of his strong traits that I've noticed. Just watching, again, I watch Ben and I very different. I'm sure everyone has a sort of different of how they watch football. I watch football very different to most. I am very technical. I like to see. I like to sort of witness the cogs and how all those small little bolts and nuts and shit like that inside the structure, more so than the big open airy shit that everybody sees. And those for me are those little things. Taking a
Is it sad that I sit there watching the referee for most of it?
No, but that's the thing, right? That's you. You're a referee yourself, and at the end of the day, that's where you're looking. You're looking at friggin' the mistakes. You're looking at the friggin' great things. You're looking at the things that friggin' that referee does that friggin' no other referee you've watched in any football match does, and you sort of sit back and go, well, why the fuck does he do it? Why isn't every other 500,000 referees doing that? That's incredible. So yeah, everyone watches the game differently and shit like that, and that's just me. I watch it in the fine details and the fine-tooth comb of what's happening sort of in the background, and he does that very well. Really well. So he's got my vote. I think the boys will do pretty well against Ecuador. From what I've seen, Ecuador have come out pretty strong, like a strong group of players and so forth. So it'll be a good task. If you haven't got tickets for Sydney or Melbourne, be sure to do so. Get along and support them if you can. At the end of the day, we should be getting as many bums on seats as we possibly can, as we don't get too many home games these days. They ask. At the end of the day, friggin' with most of our players abroad, it's easy. It's easy to go abroad because it means less travel time, less stress, less friggin' time away from their clubs and stuff like that. They can sort of come in, get the job done, go back to their club on maybe a 2 to 3 hour flight instead of fucking these 24-hour flights and shit. It's ridiculous. So get behind them as much as you can. Yep.
So to give you an understanding as to what we're looking at in difference for the grand final, so I had a look at flights and accommodation for both. For me to fly over Melbourne, yes, it's a Tuesday night, and I took that into full consideration. For flights, accommodation, it was going to cost me $450.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
That's pretty good.
For me to fly over to Sydney, for the home game there, for flights and accommodation, I was looking at $750.
Oof. Ouch.
So there's almost a $300 difference between Melbourne and Sydney for practically the same event. Yes, it's on a different day, but that's even flying back on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, and I should say for those who can, get there, get there. Like, it is one of those things. Other than that, we are going to sort of wrap it up there. As I said, we wish the Aussies all the best, and hopefully they will get the job done on those 2 encounters with Ecuador. Football's been good. Football's been crazy over the last few weeks. I watched the friggin' Clasico the other day. Barcelona, fucking skin of their teeth, 93rd minute or some shit, gets the winner. Fucking bullshit. Mate.
I still reckon the highlight for the weekend was the Conte meltdown. The guy is literally standing with a neon sign saying, "Please sack me, Tottenham."
Conte. Mate. Surely it's Conte asking for help, right? just get me out of here. What have I done to myself? Everyone who goes there before.
Everyone warned him beforehand. He's like, no, Tottenham's a good club. I'll be fine in Tottenham. Yeah, 5 months later, I fucking hate this club. Yeah. This club is shit. I need to get out. They need to terminate my contract. Yeah. But I keep playing the football.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those ones where it's just a struggle street. It's a scary door to open. Not many managers want to fucking even attempt to open it. So, 500,000 keys and fucking one key to friggin' open it, and they're still struggling after all these decades.
As a Chelsea fan, nothing makes me happier.
Yeah, I'm sure it doesn't. So, yeah, plenty of good football that's been played over the last weekend and so forth. It's crazy. On that note, we are going to wrap it up. Big shout out to Gabriel Marp, optometrist, our proud supporter who proudly support the podcast. We do thank those guys for all their help. If you're in the Newcastle area, be sure to go check those guys out for all your eye care needs. That'd be great. To everyone who's jumped in the chat tonight, thank you very much. Be sure to go share this around as much as you possibly can. It was great to hear from Laurie tonight. It always is. He's an absolute legend. And at the end of the day, I love being a Little Dinky podcast because I feel it makes him feel so much at home and so much relaxed here because we get the best out of him. He just tells it how it is and he does not give a fuck.
No.
I love it. Very open, very, very easy to speak to. Thanks again, Robbie, for jumping on.
Greatly appreciated. Thanks for having me again, and we'll catch us next week when, doing the. We'll catch up after the next round and
international
see how
play.
our Socceroos went.
Yeah, we'll be back next Wednesday, and I believe they play on the Tuesday. So so both games have been played since then. So we'll touch base on the Socceroos and a bit of the NPL and everything else. And as we won't have too much to talk about in the A-League side of things, what are we doing here? Robbie doing the sharing, absolutely he is. We thank him for that. Ams is a top bloke. I wouldn't know why Mary.
Ams?
Yeah, I think that's who she's talking about.
Yeah, no, he's a good referee. I really enjoy watching his positioning.
Yep.
He has a really good player control.
Yep.
Doesn't take any shit, and that's one thing I absolutely love about him. So, definitely, if you get a chance to watch some of the referees in the games that you're not following with bias, it's an interesting watch.
Yeah. You want to watch a game that you don't look into bias and shit. You want to look at referees. Go watch the El Clasico that just fucking got happened. How that bloke is refereeing at top level fucking amazes me. He was a joke.
That's not what I was talking about.
He was
putting words into my mouth now.
He was an absolute twat. No idea what he was doing. But anyway, we are going to leave it there. For me, the final thing I want to say, and it is a shout out to an absolute legend of the game. Again, yes, I'm a bit biased being a Reds fan. Mary will back me up on this one. He was an absolute scholar, 10 years at the club. We can't thank him enough. He ended his career last weekend, unfortunately, a little bit earlier than I'm sure he would like due to a heart condition. But Lucas Leiva, we thank you for everything you did on the field and off it. And that's just not at Liverpool. Any young kid who, in Brazil, you see your Ronaldos and you see your Neymars and stuff like that, but it's blokes in the background who don't get all that friggin' popularity and don't get looked at like these guys that are actually doing so much for the junior development in Brazil and stuff like that. He's an absolute legend, honestly, freaking top bloke. So we wish him all the best. And if you're not a Liverpool fan, or even if you are, be sure they've got plenty of shit on him at the moment in regards to the goals he scored, and they were fucking bangers. Lucas didn't score many shit goals. He didn't score many goals, period. But when he did, they were fucking bangers. And we'll miss him as friggin' as fans, obviously watching football, and it'll be shit not to have him in the friggin' in FIFA anymore.
And even the fact of him and Lazio, he was always a player you could watch and just absolutely admire.
I think the biggest thing for me is the fact that you get those players at clubs, and you know what I mean, and all the big clubs have them. Your Lampards for Chelsea, and your Steven Gerrard. Liverpool's had plenty as well. Your Steven Gerrards, John Terry for Chelsea, I suppose, as well, and etc. Down the line, that come into a club and they leave that club in a better place than it was when they first arrived. Lucas was that bloke. He could have left so many times to pursue football. He stuck it out so many times and went, fuck it, I'm gonna be here. He become part of the furniture and he changed that club for the better, and we thank him for that. So big props to you, mate. Hope you enjoy your retirement, and hopefully we see you around commentating or getting back into the game, giving back to the game in the coaching aspect or something like that. So anyway, guys, we're going to leave it there. We thank everyone for jumping in. As we said before, we will catch you guys next week. We'll be back on Wednesday next week for that one. I'll be back from holidays and so forth. So enjoy your football wherever you may be watching it. Get down to your local clubs and support the local grassroots, male, female, whatever. Coaches, friggin' referees, whatever you want to do. I'm sure there's plenty of shit I see on Facebook at the moment of the referees associations and that trying to screaming for friggin' more referees to jump in, vice versa with the coaching roles and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, friggin' if you think you can, at the end of the day, if you've got an opinion about the refereeing or friggin' the coaching and shit like that, get in and give it a go yourself. And until you put yourself in that situation, you might be quite surprised and sit back afterwards going, yeah, right, shit.
One of the amateur clubs here in South Australia has the best sign, and that says, unless you volunteered, you can't complain.
100%. That's a great sign. I haven't seen that one before. That's a ripper. That's a good one. I like it. And straight to the point and good. So, beautiful. Anyway, mate, we'll catch you. We'll speak to you next week. Obviously, I'll speak to you throughout the week. But, thanks to everyone for jumping in, as we said. Newey Jets football, welcome. I missed you in that as well, mate. But, welcome. And goodbye. We'll catch you guys next week. Take it easy and peace out. See you guys. Oh, wait. Almost forgot.
And as always,
that's exactly, mate. Friggin' I told you, we have to get you on here. And as always, guys, we will see you guys next week. And we
hate Coast Scum.
We hate Coast Scum. Every week, every year, every minute of every day, the coast can fuck right off. We'll see you guys next week. Take it easy. Peace out.